Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable business intermediaries from across the country. And joining me on this segment is Jason Godwin. He's a team leader with Florida Business Exchange. Jason, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark.
Jason, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically, who are the types of clients that you specialize in helping?
Great. So our work is primarily to help business owners either transition into retirement or to work through a merger acquisition or to help private equity companies and strategic buyers target companies that fit their model of what they're trying to acquire or invest in. And then our ideal client would be, a business owner who's looking to retire, who's, built a legacy business and, they don't have a family member who wants to take over. They don't have a partner that's willing to take over the business. So they kind of find themselves at a place where they really don't know where to turn or what to do next. A lot of our referrals come from financial advisors, accountants, and attorneys, because a lot of people don't know what a business intermediary is. They don't know that they can even sell their business.
Tell us a little bit more about these sellers. They've worked their lives and only thought of growth, and probably never put much thought into the end game of selling. So how informed are they, or how much help do they need when they finally reach you?
You're correct. Most of them have just focused on cash flow and growth. They really haven't had the opportunity to slow down and think about, when does an exit come? Because, one of the philosophies we have in our office is a business has to transition in either a change of ownership, handed down to a family member, or closed or liquidated. There's really no other pathway of succession. So a lot of these business owners have spent so much of their time growing the business, as you said, and working, 12, 14 hours a day. They haven't had the mental space to stop and think about, how do I even set my business up financially so that I can maximize my valuation? How do I, what's the most important thing in building a business that someone's going to want to buy? So typically sellers don't know where to start. I mean, I had a conversation with a seller last week that they thought they couldn't sell their business because they didn't own the real estate. A lot of owners think they have to own the real estate or that's an asset. They don't realize that sometimes that can actually be a hindrance to closing a deal. So I would say most of the sellers, they're not really informed on the process or how valuations are performed or what key performance indicators increase the value of the business.
So you brought up a good point. The thought of the real estate, that's a myth that they were holding. Are there any other big myths or misconceptions that people hear about selling a business that might not be quite correct?
I would say one of the most common is age of the business. A lot of sellers seem to think that the age of the business will determine the value of the business. For example, a business has been around for 50 plus years isn't necessarily more valuable than a business that's been around for 5 years. Another misconception is assets. Say you have two businesses that generate very similar cash flows, but one business has 200,000 in assets and one business has 50,000 in assets. Well, a lot of sellers will believe that the business with more assets is worth more money, but that's not necessarily the case. That's more things that may need capital expenditure that are going to depreciate. So if a business can create the same cash flow with less assets, it actually may be a more profitable business. Another misconception is often sellers will say, well, I talked to my friend and they told me they got this multiple for their business. So they kind of think that a common multiple will span across multiple industries and multiple situations. And a lot of times they don't know the whole story that, well, maybe part of that multiple was in equity. Part of that was in a seller held note. Part of that was in transfer of debt and some working capital. So that was given to the buyers in the transition.
Fascinating. So for a new seller, when they're considering selling a business, how far ahead of time should they start planning and working on it? And can you kind of give us a 10,000 foot view on what are the big pillars of things that they have to get prepared?
Exactly. So I would say that 3 years is optimal. banks typically look at businesses in 3-year cycles, as well as, we can get good financing on as long as we have 2 solid years. But you can severely increase your valuation if you have 3 good years of books and tax returns that reflect accurately what the business generates. And I know what you mean. You probably know what I mean by accurately, because some industries, sometimes what's on the books doesn't reflect what actually is coming through the cash register. And so that creates some situations when you're trying to get financing, especially in, say, industries like liquor stores, gas stations, convenience stores, restaurants, stuff like that. So if we can have a conversation with a seller 3 years prior to selling, we have a higher likelihood of getting them a higher valuation, a higher multiple, and a smoother sale through a bank or through a cash buyer too.
So we're currently experiencing a couple of tidal waves here. You've got your baby boomer owners that are looking to perhaps retire and sell their businesses. Then you have this whole great resignation that we've been hearing in the news, where there's a lot more buyers interested in owning a business and running it for themselves. Have you seen an uptick in potential buyers out in the marketplace, and how's that affected sellers' motivation today?
I would say absolutely. So currently, I believe I have more buyers than I do sellers. It's the seller's market. A lot of sellers have the misconception that because of COVID, their business isn't as easy to sell. They have the misconception that buyers may be more reserved, that banks may be more reserved in doing deals. So they're maybe hesitant. They say, well, 2020 wasn't a great year for me, so I want to get some more time under my financials so that we can increase the value. Well, what we've seen is there's such an influx of buyers moving from, say, the Northeast down to the South where I'm at, or from out West to the South, the Southeast, that there's just not enough listings to go around. A little story. We put a new listing on the market 2 weeks ago, a company in the construction industry, for 4.4 million. Within the first 4 days, we had 60 NDAs signed, and we're currently under contract in less than 2 weeks. If we price a company right, that's typically what we're seeing in the market. Is you have a flurry of buyers who are trying to acquire something in the Southeast, specifically in Florida, because of how our economy is doing right now. So I think there's a large misconception on what the market looks like as far as from the seller's perspective.
That sounds incredible. Jason, what inspired you to become a business intermediary to begin with? Like, what got you in the industry, and how did you get started?
So I have a very unconventional background. I was a business owner from 2000 and I owned a specific series of businesses in the automotive space from 2012 to 2019. And in 2018, we were looking to make an acquisition. One of our customers, we had a kind of a side conversation that, hey, if you're ever interested in selling your business, I'd love to, take a look at it. Well, I had, jokingly kept asking him this. He was one of my best customers. He had a very successful business in the automotive space. And, one day when I asked the question, he said, well, actually pulled me aside and said, I have a meeting with a business broker tonight. And I had never heard of a business broker. I knew kind of what an M&A advisor was, and I knew a little bit about investment banking, but I didn't know, what a Main Street level business broker was. So long story short, he put me in touch with the business broker. We took a look at the business. There was a piece of real estate involved that we really didn't want to buy with the transaction, so we didn't go forward with it. But in that time frame, I built a good relationship with the vice president of the brokerage, and we had a conversation after that, after we retracted our interest in that deal. And he said, hey, financials, taxes, business, I think you'd be really great at this. So from 2018 to 19, we kind of unwound some of our positions and closed and sold businesses and franchises. And since then, I've been doing this. This is all that I do, this and some real estate investing on the side. But I have a passion for business owners. They're my people. They're who I want to work for and with. And I've seen a lot of business owners who didn't have the opportunity to set themselves up for retirement. They work 20, 30 years in a business, and they go to exit and they don't have enough to make it through retirement. either a medical situation comes up or a change in the market comes up, something where they have to make an exit when they're unprepared. So I take pride in being kind of a buffer between those situations and coming alongside of them and helping them walk through that season. I've worked transactions from 500,000 up to 17 million. So in our shop, we'll do everything from restaurants and gas stations up into, lower middle market M&A deals.
Impressive. Jason, before I ask you my last question, is there anything that I didn't think to ask that you feel is important to share in regards to selling a business or even buying a business today in today's economy?
I would say that a good piece of information is, what are the most important factors in setting your business up to sell or looking for a business to purchase? I would say primarily for sellers, it is have a good relationship with your CPA or bookkeeper, your tax professional. Make sure your books are clean and that you're in compliance with any state and federal regulations. If you're an S corporation, make sure you're paying yourself a salary that's in line with what the IRS says you should be paying yourself. Get a financial advisor so you can look at some different ways that you can defer taxes but still increase your net worth, and start building your business where you have add backs so you can increase your seller discretionary earnings so that you can sell for higher valuation. Secondly, for sellers that find themselves doing every single role and task in the business, try to find someone who you can start delegating processes and outcomes to. Buyers are going to look more favorably on a business that has some type of operations management in place versus where the business owner is working 60, 70 hours a week. If the business owner is the business, it's a lot harder to sell versus a situation where there's management in place. Even if that salary of that manager brings the overall cash flow of the business down, in most cases, it's still an easier sale, because when the transition time comes and a bank's involved, they're going to look at how much industry experience is staying in the business with the seller's exit. And so that's very helpful.
Sage advice. Jason, for folks listening who are considering selling now and they definitely want to speak with you, or somebody looking to purchase a business, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
The best way to connect with me is via email. My email address is j.godwin, which is spelled Godwin, at fbxbrokers.com. You can go to our website, fbxbrokers.com, and then my personal website is buyafloridabusiness.com.
Jason, this has been terrific. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Jason Godwin, a team leader with Florida Business Exchange. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.